Frattallone's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic podcast number 1470, January 24, 2025. 57 degrees on this day in 1981. We're still a ways away from the first 60 of the calendar year, but it's in sight. 33 below on the morning on this day in 1904.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Haidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Soucheray.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Great.
I have an email from Alex Harrison that's very curious. Hello.
Good start.
My name is Alex. I believe my friend Billy emailed you yesterday. This was this week. His friend Billy did not email me. About possible tutoring services. He found an old flyer in his desk drawer. It has Garage Logic on it, and it says tutor services. Seems odd that you have a radio show, but figured I would reach out. My son seems to be more interested in girls in college than doing a schoolwork that I pay for him to learn. Are you able to help us? If so, what are your rates and where is your office located? Do you meet at home or at school? My son is going to the U of M and studying finance. Any help would be much appreciated. My apologies if you no longer offer these services. Did we ever offer a tutoring service?
No, but are they confused because McLaren owns a tutoring, Learn to Learn?
Or is this the Garage Logic School for the Criminal? What's that?
Does McLaren use Garage Logic on her company letterheads?
All the time. All the time. I said, yeah, go ahead, and legal won't care.
No, she doesn't.
She does not.
Of
course
course
she does
not.
not.
No.
But maybe we mentioned that in passing one time.
No, they found an old brochure in a desk drawer that says we offer tutoring services.
Oh.
To my knowledge, we've done some strange things over the years, but we've never offered a tutoring service.
What's the strangest?
Well, aside from this, appearing at that telephone store one time. That was next door to the dollar store.
Yeah.
Fine cuisine.
I bought some shrimp.
Hey, give me those sardines.
Fresh out of the Gulf.
Right out of the Gulf. They were right out of a mud puddle.
Mm-hmm.
Gulf of America.
Anyway, no, Alex, I'm sorry. We don't offer a tutoring service.
But hey, you never know.
But I'll take that as a lead. Hang on. Their clients tend to be a little bit younger than college.
I would imagine so.
Yes.
You know the Bishop Buddy, who gave the sermon for National Prayer Day service at which Trump and J.D. Vance were in the front row?
Minnesota's own?
Yes, she was here for 18 years. Her name is Marianne Edgar Buddy, or Bud, B-U-D-D-E. She was here for 18 years at St. John's Episcopal. There's a couple of things to note about that sermon she gave. I continue to think she doesn't owe anybody an apology. It's her church. She knew exactly what she was doing. I wonder if she and Amy Klobuchar know each other. Amy was a co-director, at the very least, of putting the whole inaugural together,
Right.
including the Nebraska beef and the Minnesota apples and the whole deal. I wonder if Amy might have said to Bishop Buddy, "Hey, Marianne, have a little fun here on Prayer Day. We got the Trumper and Vance sitting in the front row."
I wonder how different this speech would have been had it been Walz and Harris.
I wonder. So anyway, in any event, she's now no dummy. She's going to capitalize on this.
Book tour, the whole deal?
Yeah, she's going out on a speaking tour and the whole deal. And she stands. I would imagine she would give her money to her church. I don't know if she's.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know if
would.
she's trying to personally enrich herself.
We don't know
Oh,
that.
okay, fine. But it's interesting to note that she's going to use that to kickstart maybe a new facet of her career.
It's almost like she planned that.
Well, she's being called the first resistor.
God.
Which I guess presupposes the idea that for the next 4 years, well, there will be, if there isn't already, a resistance movement. In the meantime, Trump, surprisingly, to me anyway, accompanied by his wife, Melania.
Melania?
How do you say it?
Melania.
Melania, who was dressed in the outdoor clothing. They're in North Carolina right now, and they're flying to California today. He continues to amaze people with his energy, and he had a great idea today. FEMA should not exist because it doesn't work.
Okay.
It doesn't work. There's too many. What's the Thomas Sowell quote about bureaucrats? To bureaucrats, it's the process that's important, not the results.
Sure.
Right.
So here's something like that. So here's FEMA, who has been highly criticized for their lack of work in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. And then so Trump's down there, and he's saying the government, the state should be in charge of this. They could do it faster, quicker, and he said you could get it for about half price.
Right.
He's always doing a deal.
Yeah.
So he's saying for half the price we could get this accomplished.
Let's
Now
go.
he's going to go to California, where I would think he faces a dilemma in suggesting that the California government could accomplish anything because they would not be able to.
They could not.
They're
no.
overrun with Mysterians. They're terribly ineffective. They're terribly incompetent. And I wouldn't place anything in the hands of the California government to get done. So that leaves the question: well, should there be a National Federal Emergency Management Association? It wouldn't surprise me if the Trumper says, "Hell no, it's too expensive. They don't get anything done."
Mm-hmm. You know, you were mocking me earlier when you walked into the studio.
For what you were eating, probably.
Well, that too. But you see, Joe, social media is great for one thing. All of the DEI woke federal employees have now done their photos and videos and post them to social media, including this woman who was in charge of some sort of environmental justice and found.
Well, where? I mean, I need to know more. If you're going to drag social media into this, you got to get really a lot of facts.
Twitter?
Did we know what agency she was with?
You know what I'm going to start doing on the show? I think
Be
I'm just,
factual?
No, I'm just going to start showing up and winging it.
All right, well, give it to me then, and I'll decide.
now.
I'll decide if we can.
Okay. So today I was supposed to be leading a training about environmental justice for a national agency, but it was canceled an hour before it started. Why? Well, because the new federal guidelines from the Trump administration ban not only DEI trainings, but also any trainings or programs about environmental justice. And they're not stopping there. These policies go further, rolling back protections for our water, land, opening the floodgates to drilling, silencing those that are fighting for justice in any form. And to make matters worse, they're demanding a list of contractors like me who provide DEI and environmental justice trainings. And to be honest, it's terrifying.
To which the responses to most of those were, great.
Right.
Let's do more of this.
Yeah, and here's a little tip.
Yes, sir.
The very fact that she had time to do that would
Suggest.
reinforce my belief that she doesn't do much anyway.
Right.
So I'm not worried about the water and the land. I don't think Trump wants to poison water. I'm just not going to go there. I don't think he wants to poison water. Right. And DEI people, you have to get a real job because you've been coasting along doing nothing. We've got many of them in this state, many. And I defy them to show me. And I will apologize to them, and I will accept it. Show me what you've achieved. And can you measure what you've achieved?
What is that? The laughter of affectation?
Yes, and it's merely the affectation of the failed academy. We went through this yesterday. It's meaningless, it's expensive, and it's provided too many people to collect your money, your taxpayer money, for not doing anything.
Right.
All right. Back to the Bishop buddy who's starting a new career. Well, she's showing some initiative there. I mean, I think that if she can go and make hay out of that sermon she gave Trump and Vance, all the more power to her.
Okay. Good luck.
All right. Speaking of ineffectiveness.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, it was almost natural, wasn't it?
It really was. You were just very fluid.
By the way, today on the show, in person, is Marion Rarick, who is a House representative, a Republican House representative, along with her husband, Jason Rarick, who's a House representative.
She came up on Monday.
Right. She wants to discover or audit U of M expenses because she said that's gone unchecked since the beginning of time.
Wow.
And how many administrative assistants are there? And what are they getting paid? And are they in line with other universities? And she's doing the Lord's work here. But just as importantly, coming into the show will be two House representatives who have been at work. And I'm very curious to know a couple of things. One, what's that like? You're looking at a half-empty chamber. And two, were you there when that big fat guy with the bullhorn was hectoring you, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. That's at some point later in the show.
Yeah, it'll be in a couple segments from now.
About 45 minutes from now.
You sound wonderful.
Okay, Kyle, it's been fixed. Thank you.
Good. Yes, Kenny. Speaking of ineffectiveness and incompetence, it'll be 5 years in May since the George Floyd death on the corner of 38th and Chicago.
Wow.
5 years.
I can't believe that.
And apparently $2.2 million has been spent so far by the Minneapolis City Council to come up with plans for 38th and Chicago. Apparently, the City Council believes that 38th and Chicago should somehow be memorialized. It currently is. There's a sculpture in the middle of the intersection. Mm-hmm. And so far, that's it. It's still it's ragged looking.
In fact, what's still open at that intersection?
I have no idea.
I don't think there's much.
It's very unkempt.
But last night, Willard Anker noted this. I didn't see this in either Twin Cities newspaper, but the television stations had it. The city council rejected yet another proposal.
So wait a minute. Are they spending $2.6 million
2.2
on the Suchi plan advisors and the Reavers plan advisors taking bids?
I don't know what they're doing, but they're wasting money because they haven't come up with anything yet. Apparently, the latest plan that's in conversation, expensively in conversation, is turning that into some sort of pedestrian mall. All right.
What the hell is that?
All right, but here's the problem. No residents talked to want that.
What do the residents want?
They just want, let's go here. Let's bring
Just
back
open
the
it back
traffic
up
and
and
let's
let's go.
pretend we're in a city. And that keeps getting rejected, which is further proof that we have elected a group of people who are not interested in representing the needs of the citizenry. They're interested in their own aspirations for what they think life should look like, which is unrealistic. The council doesn't listen to the residents. They don't listen to the taxpayers who live there. The taxpayers say, let the traffic flow. If I might put words in the mouths of the taxpayers, they're saying, let's just let the area develop organically and see what happens. Why? They're trying to force, what are they trying to create? Kenny, you live there. What are they trying to create?
I don't know. I'm on the side of the residents. My idea would be if you really need to have something in the middle of that intersection, make it smaller, make a roundabout. Let's get this over with. Like I've said before, 38th Street is the fastest way in South Minneapolis to get across the freeway. That intersection always stunk. It was always hard and difficult and taxing to get through. It was a pain in the butt. And now it's worse. And what they're going to do is make it a lot worse.
Well, and at this level, at the city council level, and you said it before, as you go at higher levels, the regular voter is dismissed and not involved. But at the city council level, you should be listening to your constituents.
It's Andrea, right? Isn't that Andrea's district?
Yes, and she is willing to listen to the taxpayers.
Yeah. If she's, just take over, Andrea. Get that thing out of there. Open that intersection up. Let's go on with our lives. Try to get these businesses back up and running. If you want to do something, do it where that gas station was. That's still empty.
Here's the latest piece. This is a Brittany Ehrman and Ben Henry piece from 5 Eyewitness News. 5 years after the George Floyd weekend, George Floyd Square is on hold again. The plans are on hold yet again for the Minneapolis Climate and Infrastructure Committee. Deciding
your problem.
Deciding to hold off on voting on a design plan. The last few months have been full of rejected plans and more community engagement. The future of the square has been flooded with a mountain of ideas. I'm looking forward to making some progress on this, Latricia Vitas said. She said that on January 23rd. That's yesterday. That progress was halted at, what's today, the 24th?
Yeah.
That progress was halted yesterday at the Climate and Infrastructure Committee meeting.
Okay.
Honest to God, people of Minneapolis, you really need to wake up about what's happening to you. And St. Paul, too. Any area close to the country's tallest buildings.
What percentage of Minneapolis voters do you think are mildly conservative? Do you think it's 80-20? Lefty?
You don't even have to be mildly conservative to understand what's happening. It's a waste of your money. I don't care what your politics are.
My question, I'll change it. What percentage do you think understands that?
Not enough of a percentage. The part where I disagree, who's saying this? Vita, apparently. The part where I disagree is the fact that we need a concept in order for us to understand no, this is a different person. The part where I disagree is the fact that we need a concept plan in order for us to understand what's feasible for the community. This is Chowdhury, Arun Chowdhury said. She's a council member. After a December meeting, Minneapolis did some community engagement to get feedback. The options are a flexible, open layout, pedestrian plaza, or raised intersection. Why? There's no need for any of this. Through the survey, the city found residents do not want a pedestrian plaza. Well, then that's automatically should be erased from any planning.
Right.
That reduces your planning burden. Those surveyed were 20 property owners along Chicago Avenue, closest to where Floyd died, and north to 37th Avenue. 15 responded to the survey, and all of them opposed the city's 2 pedestrian mall options. Following the council rejecting a final design plan by city staff in early December, a few members urged staff to do more community engagement about pedestrian mall options. They don't want that. Take that off your list. One would be completely block traffic for a block on Chicago Avenue, and the other would create a cul-de-sac with a smaller pedestrian-only area. Minneapolis staff says, though a pedestrian mall, Minneapolis staff says, though for a pedestrian mall to be constructed under state statute, more than half of property owners whose properties would align with the area have to support it. They don't. What don't you understand? Oh.
And the other thing you're fighting with Minneapolis is they love wrecking streets and avenues to make for what do they call it? Traffic calming reasons. They put in boulevards and center dividers and block people from taking right turns or crossing through intersections. So this is right on par with them. I'm looking at a map right now, Joe, a satellite image of 38th and Chicago, and it already looks like a traffic circle. All they'd have to do is restripe it, and you could get rid of the stoplights, and you'd keep traffic moving just fine.
I wonder if Trump's better impulses would filter down in the next 4 years to city levels. By better impulses, I mean he would look at this and say, this shouldn't have taken you 5 years. Clean it up, shut up, and quit robbing the taxpayer so you can hold endless meetings. You've already spent more than $2 million. That would be Trump's better impulse. Are those going to filter down? I can't see.
Joe,
I want them to. I want them to desperately.
Everybody that runs Minneapolis has a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. Trump could say, here's $10 million, fix it. They would
screw it up.
They would reject that money and they wouldn't fix it. They hate Trump. They're not going to do or say anything that he advises.
The planning phase has cost the city $2.23 million from the summer of 2020 to November of just this past November.
Wow. Oh, man.
I know it's been a challenging and painful struggle just to get to this place. A costly struggle, Andrea Jenkins said. Well, it's been painful and a struggle because you're all idiots.
Let me ask all of you the same question, and I want you to answer honestly. Don't answer because we're on a show here. Do you care?
No, I don't.
Matthew,
Wait, do I care about what specifically?
38th in Chicago.
I don't care about it.
I do
at
not
all.
care.
John?
No, not really.
Joe?
No.
And that's the problem. And obviously, I'm delighted by this because I hate Minneapolis. And I used to love Minneapolis. It was my town. But I bet if you asked the same, what would the reaction be if you went all over South Minneapolis from Franklin Avenue down to the crosstown?
No.
What would... Yeah,
overwhelmingly no. You'd get your community organizers, yes, but the percentage would be so low.
Those that aren't directly affected by that intersection would not give a damn.
But here's the problem. Every resident of Minneapolis is affected because it's cost them so far $2.23 million.
That's where I can't figure it out. How do they not know that? You know, we continually talk about the Delta union employee that votes blue.
Yes.
How can you not care about that? It's a ghetto. Joe, I was through there this month, early in the month, first weekend of the month I went through there. It's a ghetto. It's a hellhole.
Yeah.
It's way worse than when before George Floyd. Way worse.
And for at least the fifth or sixth time, the mayor is saying we have to move forward. Well, yeah, you've been saying that for quite some time, Jacob. It's a two-part conundrum, because I happen to agree with the thesis that if you ask most people in Minneapolis, do you really care what happens at 38th in Chicago? The answer would be no. But then, do you resent the fact that at 38th in Chicago, $2.23 million has been spent so far on something you don't care about? And the answer would be yes, I do care about that.
That's excellent. Yep. Take down that gas station, take down the canopy, do all your George Floyd stuff in that corner, and we're done. Open the intersection up. And speed up the stoplights. They're too slow.
I mean, it was never 50th in France, was it?
Ever. No, it was it was businesses serving low-income people.
And now are the low-income people suffering because of this?
Yeah, exactly. And those businesses were flourishing. You know, there's cell phone, there was cups, there was a few other
gas
station. Yeah, it worked.
And now those that take public transportation or don't have cars have to make even more of an effort to go get a loaf of bread or a thing of milk,
right,
or a stick of butter.
Maybe they have this problem in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but I tend to doubt it. Because Sioux Falls, South Dakota Development Corporation wants you to know that they're open for business. They're ready and willing to welcome you to one of the fastest growing metro areas in the country, almost 300,000 people, but yet with great commutes and safe streets and an active downtown. But best of all, if you're thinking of relocating your business or starting a new business and you're considering Sioux Falls, remember there's no state, corporate, or personal income tax, no inheritance tax, no limits to what your business can achieve. Highly ranked state, South Dakota, for its welcoming embrace of entrepreneurship, unlike Minnesota. I've said many times I'll miss you, but we have a podcast. You can take us with you. It's one of the 50 best places to live for families in the country, fastest growing Midwest metro, and they have a workforce that's ready to go to work for you. Find out everything you need to know at SiouxFallsDevelopment.com. That's one word, SiouxFallsDevelopment.com.
Mother, The Joe Souchere Show.
Garth Hudson's last piano piece.
North American Banking Company, my bank. You know, I was just talking to a friend this morning that's thinking about making a switch in his banking world, and I think he should go in to any one of the 6 Twin Cities locations of North American Banking Company, whether it's Roseville, 50th in France, Hastings, Woodbury, Shoreview, and Maple Grove. North American Banking Company is going to offer you all of the services as the other big national banks or some of the smaller local banks, whether you're looking to buy a home, finance a new home renovation project, or get that brand new car that you've been thinking about. My friends at North American Banking Company are going to be able to help you out. They offer the same online and mobile banking options as the other banks, but you're going to get the unparalleled service of a community bank. Here's the deal. They first opened back in 1998, and they made a promise to deliver a better banking experience for their customers, where you know your banker and they know you. And while a lot has changed since then, this commitment to being a true community bank in the Twin Cities, that has not. They're locally owned and operated, which means loan decisions are made right here in the Twin Cities, helping out you business owners solve problems quickly and expand your business with confidence. So check them out online today. It's nabankco.com to learn more. It's banking done differently. North American Banking Company, member FDIC, is an equal housing lender. Joe?
May I have some of that celebratory
you need a little
fanfare? That ta-da!
it's that time of the week
Yeah,
already.
I think so.
'Tis the season.
It is. Join me now.
Where?
Well, in celebrating
And
our
my wife, Ramona.
and celebrating our second GLer of the week, Rick Shar of Hudson, Wisconsin. Rick, there he is. He's on the board.
We've met Rick at the fair, right?
I think so.
Rick, you look like a troublemaker.
Yeah, Rick's
I want to
another
hang out with you.
Rick is another longtime council member all the way back when the council incorporated in October of 2022. Rick never misses a show, even as he's traveling around the Gulf of America right now.
Nice.
Avoiding the cold. But you're not avoiding the cold, Rick. You really got gypped. It's snowing to beat hell down there, and you're freezing to death.
Right.
Along with our warmest personal regards,
Yes, sir.
Rick will be getting more of that syrup. A $50
Masters
gift
Maples.
box of Masters Maples. Mm-hmm. You can join the Garage Logic Town Council for your chance to be GLer of the Week. Thanks for listening, Rick. Rick Shar of Hudson, Wisconsin.
I
Thank
wonder
you,
if
Rick.
I wonder if he's wearing his reversible Packer Viking jacket right now.
You think he's one of those guys?
He runs down to Barker's and he'll, who's winning?
Or does he got the Packer, Yankee, Lakers jacket like Height wears?
That too.
May I tell you that I wholeheartedly agree with what Spirit Airlines has announced.
Oh, what's the latest? You're scaring me.
We might have seatbelts. We
Yeah.
might have.
What do you mean I have to charge for bags?
Spirit Airlines has updated its policy to include a stricter dress code for passengers.
Oh. Wow. I can't wait to see this enforced.
It became...
You should see what they wear.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
And if I could be serious for a moment,
Okay.
I don't think you should get on a plane dressed as though you just came from a pig trough with splashes of manure on your shorts.
Manure?
Okay.
Whatever.
The update became effective 2 days ago, and it says a passenger can be denied boarding or removed from a flight because of their clothing or offensive tattoos. I think that's fantastic.
What's an offensive tattoo?
Yeah, who decides
Expletive,
what's
or
offensive?
Is it just tasteless?
Oh, listen to you right-wingers.
If it's on your face, it's tasteless.
Okay.
The additions to the contract now specify that passengers who are inadequately clothed, you know who wouldn't get on this plane? That chick that Bezos hangs around with. What's her name?
Sanchez?
Yeah, Lauren.
Yeah,
The,
Sanchez.
She wears the underwear on
She
the
wears
outside.
your underwear into
She
an
not getting
inaugural.
on.
She wears her undergarments.
Right.
Right out of a Sears
And
catalog.
Zuckerberg was verifying that was
They were
her.
all eyeballing
Yeah,
that,
right.
weren't they?
Yeah.
The additions to the contract now specify that passengers who are inadequately clothed, such as wearing see-through clothing that expose breasts, buttocks, or
Bosoms,
other
please.
private parts,
You can see some booty on Spirit Airlines passengers.
or subject to being grounded. I think this is
Does that mean-
fantastic.
What do you mean? Means if they're grounded?
This is heading. It's taking us in the wrong direction.
It's heading us to a flurry of lawsuits, fights, disruptions.
I will, as an airport worker since 2016, I will say.
I thought you worked
it
only
has-
for this podcast.
No, there's no money in the podcast.
Oh.
Money at the airport. There has been a decline
comment.
of what people are wearing.
comment from
It's
me,
just
dude.
it's so
The
bad.
last 5 years. How about the last 30 years, 40 years?
Okay.
You know, Royce's. Let's take
I'm
a
not
vote.
done with this article yet, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, this is along this lines, but it's the opposite of what you're doing. Royce's. Let's take a vote. You know,
He'd let you on. Yeah. I mean,
there's a comedian, Dusty Slay, who this week suggested Risk It All Airlines.
Yeah.
An airline for the people. First of all, you don't go through TSA.
Yep.
You get to smoke in the back.
You don't
and
get
can
de-iced.
You can carry on whatever the hell you want, and you can sit wherever you want. Bring on anything. Risk it all. Just get me there.
Let's go.
Hopefully.
Risk
yeah.
Airlines.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Right here for Risk Airlines. Risk it all.
An employee assists travelers at a Spirit. Oh, that's a cut line. The contract also makes clear that passengers may not be barefoot, which is a policy on other airlines as well.
Yeah.
Another addition to Spirit's policy, the appearance of offensive tattoos is not a common cause for removal. The new policy comes after clothing infractions have reportedly caused issues for some Spirit passengers.
Okay.
So they got, Helen Busybody in there, doesn't
Right.
like the way Lauren Sanchez is wearing her Victoria's Secret gown, A Spirit Airlines Airbus, that's a cut line.
Yep.
In October of last year, 2 women were removed for wearing crop tops on the airline. Last week, a man from Texas was removed from a Spirit flight for wearing what was deemed an offensive hoodie. The passenger eventually removed the article of clothing, but was still escorted from the plane. I think it's great, but I think they'll have trouble with it.
Trouble enforcing it by saying you've got midriff here. You can't get on board.
Well, you raise a great point.
However, if you catch them before they check their bag, which doesn't happen because by the time you get there to the gate, you've already checked your bag.
No. Here's the great point you brought up accidentally.
Okay.
All right. Well, you said check the midriff. Well, yeah. What are the standards going to be? That's going to be the problem.
Well, I think what Rookie's trying to say, if I may speak for you,
And
Matthew,
everybody else does, yeah.
I think what Rookie's trying to say is good luck with trying to enforce this thing when your clientele is essentially one of the most disruptive flyers in the country. Would that be safe to say?
After they've paid their $22 for that ticket to go to Chicago.
They are an entitled group.
Right. They think they're flying first class. They need the first
Where's
class.
my meal?
Yeah. What's the meal today?
Well, I guess I can only, rant like an old man yelling at the clouds that I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. I wish there was more decorum in the public square.
would they have just made this policy, Rook, so that they were able to enforce something else other than behavior? In other words, if someone was being disruptive, they could use this as almost a crutch to be able to say, nope, you got to come off the flight. You're not wearing.
I know how to fix this.
Go.
And this was ingrained in me as a child flying. I mean, I can still fly non-rev, but the rules have changed. But when I was a kid, you had to dress up. And if you wanted to get bumped up to first class, you had to have a suit on. You had to look really good. What you do, and even if it's a lie, because lying's okay if it works, you tell these passengers, if you dress really nicely, there's a chance we can bump you up to first class for little or no price increase.
Did you ever see a picture of Metropolitan Sports Center in the first couple of years of the North Stars being here?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Everyone's got a suit and tie on. The women have dresses on. And
Yeah.
there's no more decorum in the public square. It goes hand in hand with the decline of moral and ethical integrity. I mean, you can be dressed poorly and still have great moral and ethical integrity. I'm not saying that, but just generally, Americans have become not very caring about how they look, what they wear.
Well, I will give the airlines some credit, because if you are non-revving or flying standby, there is a code. If you're an airline employee or a buddy pass, they do enforce that.
Fine, that's two people.
Yeah, but
One
tell
people.
everybody.
Yeah.
My suggestion is tell everybody, hey, passengers, you dress up nice, you might get bumped up to first class where the real people live.
Or you could say, today, on your flight next week, we're selecting the 5 best dressed people to bump them up to first class.
Wait a minute.
I think.
I just realized this could backfire.
Right.
Because when I'm in first class, I expect a certain level of decorum and decency. I don't want some dirtball like Reavers up there just because he dressed up. I don't need some guy 12 beers in.
And Chris thinks
I heard
pullover sweatshirt is dressing up.
Wait. I heard a great story about this. Apparently it's true. Is it Keanu Reeves who...
Yes, it's him. Yep.
What am I going to say?
He dresses like a hobo, but he's the most generous, giving person in the entire world. Gives away his money.
Apparently he got on a flight to Tokyo, and of course he was first class.
Yep.
And he's seated next to a businessman with a tie and suit on.
Who freaked out?
Keanu's got the bad look. I guess he doesn't. He's
Frumpy.
Exactly what I'm talking about. He doesn't care what he looks like when he gets on a plane. But I happen to, from what I've read about him, he's a decent sort.
Yeah.
And this guy, from before they got on the plane, was giving Keanu Reeves grief about, hey, you're going to fly like this? Look at you. You look like a bum. You look terrible.
You know who that guy reminds me of?
Can I finish the story?
You know what it reminds me of? Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah, it reminds me of Kenny. And
And you.
okay, Kenny. The fellow gave no indication that he knew who he was razzing
Okay, so he
there.
hadn't figured
Which
that
shouldn't
out yet.
make a difference because that tells us what we. Yeah, exactly.
Can I finish the bleeping
I
story?
wish you would, so the rest of us
I
can
thought
talk.
we were going to pretend like we've done this before.
I can't wait for the end.
Finish your story so the rest of us can talk. Well, he's milking it now.
Yeah.
It's pretty much throughout the flight. The guy is very angry that he has to sit next to this guy who has no care about how he looks. And finally, the hostess came back and said something to the effect that, Mr. Reeves, do you want such and such? And the guy said, "Oh, are you Keanu Reeves?" And Reeves said, "Yes, I am." And the guy said, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And Reeves said, "You shouldn't be. You should be apologetic for your attitude in general. You don't necessarily have to apologize to me, but your condemnation of." And then he gave him his Zen-like talk about, why don't you chill out, fella, and just be a nicer guy. Because apparently Reeves, I think I read something to the effect that he's gotten to the point in life where he doesn't argue with people.
Right.
Whatever they say, he just thinks to himself, okay. So that bore true here. Here's a guy ripping the hell out of him for a couple hours. He never says a word. I don't care that this guy's saying this. It's okay. It's not going to affect my Zen-like spirituality I have going here.
I try to go into every show with that attitude.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know
Doesn't
you
last
do.
long, does it?
No.
Fellas, have you noticed what I've noticed the past week or two, that Joe has been quoting social media more and more, bringing up stories that I've only seen on social media.
Was
on the
that
X?
on social media?
Oh, don't act like you didn't see that
I did
on
not
TikTok.
hear. I did not see it on
Come
social
on,
media.
Joe.
I heard it from a guy who must have seen it then. Apparently on social media.
Okay, Joe.
So you didn't
Okay.
catch
I didn't see it on social
You didn't get
media.
this from the X.
Here's the new State Fair T-shirt.
Yeah,
Here,
right.
Here, I didn't see it on social media.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Okay, Kenny.
Did the guy comment on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or no?
Never mind.
Okay.
I was wondering if this new Spirit Airlines thing, can you walk on the plane if you have toothpaste on the front of your shirt? Is that going to be allowed?
You got such paste. You're no first class for you.
Such paste.
Oh, he's free and clear today.
Yes.
He lives to see another day.
No
Do you,
such paste.
do you put a bib on? Or tuck a towel in
Those
your
big
collar?
lobster
He
bibs.
didn't put on the overshirt until after he brushed his teeth.
May I introduce something before you break? You have been. This was actually sent to us by a number of different GLers over the last, I'd say, 24 hours or so. You've been lamenting before we got some of the new Dylan Height bumper songs that we need to mix it up a bit. So this is, I guess, up for your approval whether we can introduce this as a new Garage Logic bumper song. Are you prepared to hear it? Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Black and indigenous people of color. Black and indigenous people of color. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Asian American Pacific Islander. Asian American Pacific Islander. Latino,
Take it down.
I
Is this
was
one of
waiting for the
Dylan's new
explosion.
bumps?
Is that the lady who's saying there's a hole in the ground where a
it kind of
tree?
sounded like
It does sound exactly like, and she's got a nice voice.
Not really.
No,
It
that-
also sounded like Gwen.
It sounded
Chris.
terrible.
Oh,
It
did sound
sounded
like
horrible.
So you saw the video, I assume.
I did
right?
not.
Oh, really?
I did not.
Yeah, she's in the woods. It's a very.
Oh, is she crying with the trees?
She really is, and she's patting herself on the.
That's why this country will never be told about extraterrestrial beings
Yes, because of that woman.
because no one could handle it. No
And
one
it's
could handle
also
it.
why
Lesbian,
L.A. is
scientific.
burning to the ground.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great time coloring last night in Duluth.
Oh,
I
did you?
went. I drove up.
What'd you color?
I colored
Fashion?
the Split Rock Lighthouse.
Oh, that's neat.
Two harbors.
Tried
yeah.
to stay in the lines. It was fun.
I
It was
think
good.
we really should introduce a Garage Logic coloring book. We could have things from all over the state. We could do the Split Rock Lighthouse.
Chris, I think the very first page, or maybe even the cover, needs to be Joe giving the salute to
Yeah.
Kenny on the monitor.
It's not bad.
I am looking forward to news reports, which I assume we'll get, of Trump's visit with Newsom today. Because Trump won't hold back.
No.
And it's just a dreadful situation. And as I said, I love the idea of getting rid of FEMA if it doesn't work, but I don't know what you do when you come to a state as ruined as California. They need oversight, and Newsom cannot provide it. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know what I would do if I was the governor. I'd fill the reservoirs.
Fill the reservoirs.
You know what I'd say?
Yes.
You know what I'd say about it?
What?
'Tis the season.
Tis the season for full reservoirs.
Why don't we come back with John Height?
Can we hear about our friends from EcoFun Motorsports?
Well,
before
you
do that?
can. You look at the troubles around the rest of the country. So far, we've generously avoided natural disasters, but we could be heading into an era where a generator might be great equipment to have around the old house. And EcoFun has Yamaha generators with fantastic sale prices. $13.99 for $17.99.
Yep.
Warranties. You can get them electric start. They're fuel efficient. They're quiet. They're four-stroke. They're just fantastic. And Tim has laid in a great supply of Yamaha generators at EcoFun Motorsports in Forest Lake / Columbus. It's right west. It's just west of Interstate 35 on Highway 97. It's also the electric bike capital of the world. Great motorcycle lineup, scooters, youth recreational equipment, snowmobiles, snow removal equipment. It is a fun store. And with that great sale going on now with Yamaha generators, also an EcoFun Motorsports in Burnsville. Near the county, near the service, it's on the service road of life near County Road 42, and a great website, ecofunmotorsports.com. They really will have every bit of your outdoor needs in stock and ready for your attention. ecofunmotorsports.com.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine. Joe Souchere.
I know my Seafoam Works program for cylinders actually does work because I have proof. I think I could call this merit-based, actually. You decide. I'll tell you the scenario. I own a little Bobcat tractor, 30-horse something, charming little workhorse. Before I started using Seafoam on the regular, when I wanted to start this thing in the winter, I'd plug it in for 24 hours, then I'd hit the glow plug for 15 seconds, and it would go rawr, 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 bleh. And I'd go through that, and it was a real pain. Yesterday, after the allotted 24 hours of block heating and the 15 seconds of glow plug, that thing burst to life. I think that is merit-based. That's proof. Thank you, Seafoam. You did everything you promised me. You kept that diesel fuel fresh. You clean the engine innards, and you make that little gem wake up when it was cold out. Immediately, merit-based proof that Seafoam truly does work. Swing over to seafoamworks.com. You'll find all the information you'll ever need about all the various Seafoam products, and especially the Seafoam engine treatment. Use it on gas-fired cylinders, diesel-fired four-banger tractors, one-lunger yard implements, or even the old greasy triples made back when snow machines were affordable. Seafoam is always the answer for worry-free operation. A local company, a global reach, and a true wonderful product in a world of bad gas. Seafoam.
Here's John Haidt.
Thanks, Joe. This update brought to you by North American Banking Company. Update on a story from the other day. The FBI said this morning it has arrested a Washington state woman in the fatal shooting of U.S. Border Patrol agent in Vermont earlier this week. That agent originally from Minnesota. 21-year-old Teresa Youngblood was charged in Monday's killing of border agent David Malland, the FBI said, noting that Youngblood and a German man who died in the firefight that also killed Malland had been under surveillance for several days leading up to the confrontation. Malland stopped Youngblood and Felix Bachholt on Interstate 91 in Coventry on Monday because Bachholt appeared to have an expired visa, according to an FBI affidavit. During the stop, Youngblood opened fire on Malland and other officers, and Bachholt tried to draw a gun but was shot, according to the affidavit. At least one border agent fired on Youngblood and Bachholt, but authorities haven't specified whose bullets hit whom. Investigators had been performing periodic surveillance of the pair since January 14th after an employee at a hotel where they were staying reported concerns about seeing Youngblood carrying a gun and both of them wearing all black tactical gear. Investigators tried to question them, but the pair declined to have an extended conversation, said they were in that area looking to buy property.
What a strange story. There's more there than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm. As we told you yesterday, a partisan standoff in the Minnesota House of Representatives, now in the hands of the Minnesota Supreme Court. Update says justices heard oral arguments from both sides of the ongoing issue of how many members are needed to conduct official business. Justices asked tough questions of both sides in the legislative dispute that led to a boycott by DFL House lawmakers. At the root of the cases before the court, a question of whether 67 lawmakers is enough for a quorum when there's a vacancy in the 134-seat House of Representatives. The justices took the case under consideration, but no timeline was immediately given for them to issue an opinion. Governor Walz announcing his 2025 infrastructure plan yesterday, including $887 million for various projects. The proposed package invests more than $144 million in water and transportation infrastructure, including more than $107 million to support grants and low-interest loans to keep Minnesota's water clean. The infrastructure plan also includes $5 million for flood mitigation and prevention and $10 million for work on the Rapidan Dam. More than $239 million is included for public safety projects, including expanding the laboratory and investigatory capacity for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and constructing a building for the Minnesota State Patrol headquarters. In national and international headlines, firefighters making progress on the fast-spreading Hughes fire in northwest L.A. County yesterday, despite continued strong gusts in the area. Growth in the fire near Castaic Lake was halted after the blaze scorched about 10,000 acres in less than 24 hours. The rapid pace had prompted evacuation orders or warnings for about 50,000 residents near Santa Clarita, although most had returned to their homes by late yesterday. The fire 36% contained as of early this morning. The Hughes fire's quick spread made it the third largest fire in the region after the Twin Palisades and Eaton fires claimed 28 lives and burned more than 40,000 acres earlier this month.
10,000 acres in California is about the size of Gull Lake, which is interesting only to me. What's problematic, of course, is people live there.
Meanwhile, as you talked about, Joe, President Trump expected to visit L.A. today for a tour of areas damaged by the fires. Details about the trip, the first trip of his second term, were not available as of last night. It was not clear which locations he plans to visit or whether he'll be joined by California Governor Gavin Newsom, a frequent target of Trump's insults. Newsom has said he's willing and able to meet with Trump. Yesterday, state lawmakers in California approved more than $2.5 billion fire relief package with bipartisan support in Sacramento. As for federal fire relief funds, Trump has threatened to withhold federal disaster aid for L.A. unless California leaders change the state's approach on its management of water.
I like that idea, too. Those are his better impulses. You people get your act together or you're not going to get any money from the American taxpayer.
Could that be used, though, by the other side and other areas? That's the part that scares me.
How would they use it?
Well, if you disagree with whatever a state is doing.
You can't disagree with policies that result in the loss of 10,000 homes.
Yes, but you could disagree with other policies.
What, DEI policies?
Say if a dam breaks. We have that one, don't we?
Yeah.
If a dam breaks and you hadn't taken care of it, say, and you go, no, can't have the money. That sort of thing.
We're facing that in Minnesota.
Well, we are getting money. Most of the Rapidan Dam one is coming from federal money.
All right.
Well, if it keeps on raining, the levee's going to... By the way, someone just sent this in. Target has just announced that they are ending all of their DEI goals as workplace inclusion gets stronger.
For all the guests?
Yes, I believe it just relates to guests.
A federal judge in Seattle blocking temporarily President Trump's attempt to rescind birthright citizenship. The idea is spelled out in the Constitution that every person born in the U.S. is an American citizen. Senior U.S. District Judge John Conahour on Thursday was blistering in his criticism of the action as he granted a temporary restraining order that blocks Trump's executive order from taking effect. Conahour said, "I've been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented is as clear as this one. This is a blatantly unconstitutional order." Conahour, an appointee of Ronald Reagan, said, "From the bench, there are other times in world history where we look back and people of goodwill can say, where were the judges? Where were the lawyers?" The president told an audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland yesterday that every international business needs to make their products in the U.S. or face tariffs. He said, "My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth." He said, "But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you'll have to pay a tariff." The tariff threats have not been welcomed by world leaders, especially countries like Canada and Mexico. The president again floating annexing Canada yesterday as the 51st state by using tariffs as leverage. He's previously threatened to enact tariffs against Mexico unless the country stops sending crime and drugs across the border. The remaining classified files related to the 1963 assassination of President John Kennedy will be made public in the near future after an executive order yesterday from President Trump. Government documents pertaining to the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. will also be reviewed for eventual release. Congress mandated in 1992 that files related to the killing of Kennedy, John Kennedy, be declassified by 2017. That deadline was missed, and files, many with numerous redactions, have been released in batches over the last 7 years. Officials have said 97% of the more than 5 million documents have been made available. The assassination has spurred numerous conspiracy theories over the decades.
I would say chief among them right now is that the driver turned around and shot Kennedy.
Oh, you saw that video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure looks like it to me.
Well, it's AI. It's got to be.
Well, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know what's real anymore.
Right.
But you did see a bunch of people. See?
Well, it ain't Oswald, that's for sure. Oswald was a distraction, but he didn't kill Kennedy.
Don't start.
I know.
Don't start.
I
Come on,
know,
Johnny.
but you'll
Come
be
on, Johnny.
proven, John. It'll be
John,
proven.
you've never been more wrong in your life.
There's not a chance
Serious.
in hell Oswald killed
I
Kennedy.
respect everything else you say except this Kennedy stuff.
With his $28 Sears rifle.
Yeah, that piece of crap.
That didn't happen. Well, you want to take a time
Plus,
out?
Alan Dulles heading up the Warren Commission.
Yeah.
What? You find the biggest criminal in the world, put him in charge of the investigation.
Can't we at least have a guy named Warren headed up?
Yeah,
No,
or
yeah,
Warren. Come on.
But Alan Dulles was there, and he was. Oh my God, he was shifty.
I think John's the type, though, that he'll say I was wrong when it happens to be.
It's not going to happen.
We don't know that.
In the immortal words of Stephen Hunter, your hero, remember?
Yep.
I'm 95% certain Oswald was the only shooter.
That's
That's
5%
what he
to work
said.
with.
Yeah,
5%.
I'll take
Telling
them.
me there's
I'll
a
take
chance.
them odds, John, any day of the week.
Before we break and return with our guests, we did have another satisfied Garage Logic Town Council GLer of the Week that's going to receive Masters Maples, the best 100% pure maple syrup that Minnesota has to offer. And oh, by the way, you can get your bottles today by going to mastersmaples.com. It's a gluten-free natural sweetener that can be used in cooking, grilling, and glazing. Here's the deal. They bring unique flavors
Rick Scharr.
to meals. Rick Scharr was
Of
the
Hudson.
winner of Hudson, Wisconsin was the winner today. But here's the other thing. It offers many health benefits that commonly used refined sugars do not. They offer the traditional pure maple syrup, the bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup, maple sugar for you bakers out there, and also sweet and savory seasonings and rubs. I gave a bottle of the rub to my neighbor he loves to smoke. He's like, this stuff is fantastic on the smoker. So, FYI.
Put it on your bacon, too, by the way.
Oh, that's not a
Bake
bad
your
idea.
bacon in the oven and put some Masters on it. It's fabulous.
And by the way, you can order a gift pack just like the one that Rick is going to receive today by going to mastersmaples.com. Doesn't matter if you're looking for something for family, friends, or coworkers. Give the gift of Masters Maples at mastersmaples.com. That's mastersmaples.com.
Aren't we due for a drop-off? I haven't stolen
Yes,
your
please.
Took all of
Hey,
mine, that's
yes,
for sure.
please.
Anyway, say hi to Ben, the proud GLer and the brains behind Masters Maples, and let him know that you heard about his product right here on the Garage Logic podcast.
This guy wears many hats, just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
Representative Marion Rarick is with us. Representative Jason Rarick is with us. They are a married couple. It's a family business with you guys, isn't it?
For about a year and a half.
Who do you represent?
So I'm between here and Duluth. So from Rush City up to Cloquet is my district.
And Marion, you are Maple Grove-ish?
A little bit further west. So I have Maple Lake,
Yep.
Buffalo, and Monticello.
All right. And you've been with us before. You are you do the Lord's work over there. You both have been seated, unlike DFLers. You both have been working since day one. Is that correct?
I have been there every day, every committee hearing, every moment that we are doing something.
What's that been like when you look across the room and it's half empty? What has this vibe been like?
Well, it's incredibly disappointing that Democrats don't want to show up to work.
Mm-hmm.
We're still doing the work, but I ran into a colleague of mine at an event afterwards. So we go to legislative receptions and such. And I leaned over to him and I said, hey, look, when are you going to show up to work? We kind of need your perspective. He's someone that actually brings expertise to the legislature. Not all of them do. There's activists too. But I said, you're actually one of those that bring something and move the conversation forward, and we need your voice. And he's like, yeah, I know. But they're not there. They don't care.
Where are you on the quorum controversy that went before the state Supreme Court yesterday? Their ruling is, we're awaiting their ruling. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I believe that we're in the right. I believe that we have quorum with 67. It's a simple math thing. We have 133 duly seated members. That's how many election certificates were presented the day that we took our oath. Steve Simon said, I have 133 election certificates in front of me. And if you do the math, the majority of that is 67. It's simple math.
And that's what the Supreme Court will decide. I don't know if they just look at the simple math, I don't know how they can come up with any other answer.
So they're weighing a lot of different things. It was about an hour-long hearing yesterday, and both sides were presented. So we'll see what they have to say. They asked really hard questions and good questions on both sides.
Were both of you present when Lee Finke sent in that mob of people led by some big fat guy with a bullhorn? Were you there for that?
I was not in the hearing room,
Oh.
but I'll tell you, I walked through the hallways with one of our new freshman members, a very tiny little woman who was literally, her words, in fear for her life. That's not how to legislate.
And never heard a word from the governor about this. Never heard a word from the Democrats. That wasn't a protest. That was, what was that?
It was almost an ambush.
It was a.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it was
you.
an ambush. It was a frenzy. It was terrible. But apparently, you can, under a Walz administration, that's just fine.
Right. So Walz has not condemned them. I did see something, in fairness to Melissa Hortman. She did condemn it. I did see that on X. She released some kind of a statement. But here's the contradiction to that. Her members, including Finke and others, were the ones telling people to show up and create a ruckus, essentially. And I cannot say that they said specifically, pull out a bullhorn and blow it in the faces of duly elected members sitting in a committee hearing. I don't know that they necessarily did that, but that's the net effect of it.
You, when you got here, you made me very nervous. You took out a laptop computer and you had a briefcase full of documents. The latest reason we wanted to talk to you, there are many reasons, but you've got the idea that University of Minnesota administrative costs need to be looked at. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're suggesting they either haven't been or rarely been looked at.
So I would say, this is what I said publicly already. I was interviewed by this station, actually, Jay Coles. And I said, this is a historic look at their budget. So what I even have the document in front of me, which is one of the many things I have. It is the letter that I sent to the University of Minnesota doing a public data request. Anybody can do this, by the way. I just happen to be in the seat of the chair of the higher ed committee. And I asked them for, initially, I'll tell you what I initially asked for. I asked for their entire $5 billion budget, top to bottom, revenue and expenses, down to the most subcategory that they have. So the most granular detail that they have. And they did not know what to do with that. They have never been asked such a thing. And I know they haven't because I've talked to other people that, others in the legislative auditor's office that look at that information, and I was told that in the 30 years that person was at the legislative auditor's office, this level of scrutiny has never been exercised by the legislature. So they pushed me back. I had a lovely breakfast with the president, but that did take over a month, even though I said I have an emergency issue I want to talk to you about. It took them over a month to put it on the calendar, which I was not very happy about. When I finally did meet with her, she explained to me, well, we've got over 60 budgeting units. So they have central, so like their central office, and then they send out little drips and drabs of money all over the place. to over 60 different budgeting units. Each of those budgeting units has an entire fiscal staff. They get the money in bulk, and then they decide what to do with it. I'm like, great. Give me that budgeting unit. And I said, and they were like, well, you're asking for a lot of information. I'm like, I sure am. Because this is what I asked for initially. I wanted 3 years of actual numbers, so actual budget numbers, the actuals.
And right now you've got her terrified.
I have no idea if she's terrified or just
Well, you've
highly
got her on her
respect-
heels.
I think the University of Minnesota is aware that I'm going to ask for this and I'm not going to stop until I get it. And then I'm going to analyze the data and see what the data says. Because I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe they don't have administrative bloat. But I want the numbers to tell me that.
Is it your suspicion that you're going to discover there's too many third assistant to the assistants?
So that is what has been spoken in many different circles. That they, in fact, when I had my hearing yesterday, a law professor, Richard Painter, said it very loudly and very clearly that there is administrative bloat throughout the whole system. Well, when I get my information back, I'll be able to tell whether or not that's true. I have a suspicion, but I'll wait until I get the data.
What is your? What do you propose as your